Bacolod is a city I keep coming back to. The energy here has always been palpable and it's taking an important role in Filipino cuisine. I see it as a gateway to the whole island of Negros where there is an exciting movement of organic farming and an heirloom ingredient revival taking root. This time around, we will be meeting and talking to individuals who are putting in the work in lifting up their local produce and serving up delicious dishes that we can all be proud of. We are back in Bacolod. We're doing it in style this time in the next gen Ford territory. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I can already smell and feel all the delicious bites of food we're gonna have. So strap in and buckle up. Okay, I lied. Our first stop isn't technically in Bacolod, but it's not far. But look at this view. 7 Hectares is a grower of premium seafood with farms based in the town of Saravia, Negros Occidental. They grow some of the most sustainable and tastiest seafood you can get in the country. Hey man.
Hey, long time no see.
For a long time.
Yeah.
How are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How are you?
Good.
Are you back in triathlon? No. Same
Never
here.
again.
Never again. Ever since you entered, these ponds are all abandoned prawn ponds. So when I got married, me and my wife decided, hey, we might want to try our hand into something in farming. We were traveling in Tuscany, and then we got inspired by this farm because everything that we dined on was actually grown in that vineyard. The prosciutto, the cheese, the wine. We tried our hand into milkfish, and I said, nah, it's not challenging enough.
Yeah, and it's almost a commodity market at this point, right?
So we chanced upon sea bass because they consider the sea bass as a pest here, a pahap. The reason why we did this is to preserve the endemic species of Negros. Because sea bass is quite prominent in this area, or barramundis. Also red snappers, or mangrove snappers as they would call it. I work with a team of marine biologists. I have finfish, I have mollusks, and I have crustaceans. They're consultants.
Okay.
For a sea bass to reach maturity or table size, it's gonna take around 8 months. And it's natural. It's like what Mother Nature brings. What we observed is, when we did bangus, why was there a sea bass? I didn't grow any sea bass. Oh, it's from the wild. Okay, so if it's from the wild...
And it's thriving.
It's thriving here, there's food source here. What we did was we studied the food sources or the food elements. So they have their own dietary components that we grow here. One of the major elements of the diet of a sea bass is called annelids. These are sea worms. They play a crucial role in terms of the fat content of the sea bass and the taste. Normally the ponds here in Negros, it's like this. One entire pond. Yeah. So what we do is we have compartments. Since they're very highly carnivorous, they eat each other. So we size them accordingly so they don't eat each other. But there's one technique so that they can coexist is you can actually put a herbivore species in a pond with a carnivore. The only thing is the herbivore has to be bigger than the carnivore.
So what's that for you? What's the big herbivore?
The bangus. Part of the ecological cycle that we actually do is we use the bangus as aerators. And they eat the algae, so they clean the ponds, and at the same time they swim around. That
nice.
Creates oxygen,
yeah,
for them to thrive on, especially for the sea bass. They're gonna make a pass, and this is how it's done traditionally. So it's not motorized.
So they just walk with it, right?
They just walk with it.
With the net.
Yeah.
So how many species do you guys have?
We have snappers, we have sea bass, we have mangrove crabs, razor clams, mangrove clams, horn snails.
In 2021, the World Health Organization mentioned that the level of toxins in all seafood was becoming very alarming. Now, this is especially scary because in the Philippines, we are one of the largest sea polluters in the world. I think we're number 1. Here, they do not use any artificial feeds or growth hormones, nor subscribe to any intensive farming practices that wreak havoc on farmlands and surrounding ecosystems. They believe in the long term over short-sighted profit-taking, and these solutions will need to be eventually adopted at scale all around the country at one point. After touring the farm, we had to try the produce, and this is the best way to try a product, straight from the source. They started doing small lunches and events with different chefs and saw that it was the best way to show people what they were doing. People will be able to reserve and have a special 7 to 10 course meal made with what's currently in season in the ponds. Everything from blue crab to their beautiful apahao.
When I saw the menu, I was like, okay, this is very
Complex.
complex for an outdoor kind of setting. But in the same time, by reading through the menu, I could understand that it was really just about kind of showing respect to the ingredient and really showcasing and trying to elevate it, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. And then when we pulled up here, I was like, oh, it's really in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you'd have kind of like a small kitchenette kind of tucked away or something like that.
It's an outdoor setup. That's why the menu is called naked course, because we don't put any additives.
Yeah.
So it's just a blend of all the natural species, ingredients. Take for example the ceviche, it's just a red snapper, the dried skin and the lemon. So it depends with the season and how we have it. So we go with the flow with what Mother Nature brings.
Very nice.
For the bagungon, or horn snail, I love my escargot.
Same.
They call it bagungon. It's a pest here. They consider it as a pest. That's why they would throw a lot of pesticides just to kill this. This is way sweeter than your ordinary escargot because it's brackish water. The green shows you how clean the algae is. That's the color actually of the algae that they consume.
Escargot really is, without butter and garlic, it really doesn't taste like anything. Yeah, but here, you get a lot of that brininess, which is quite nice. And that paired with the banana heart, laing kinataan concoction that you have here is delicious.
The coconut milk is actually from one of the coconut trees here. So everything that you're actually tasting here is actually from the trees here.
And it's very Filipino.
Yeah.
It's a very Filipino flavor, which is quite nice.
The one next is binacol sea bass. This was actually cooked in coconut water with the sea bass. Normally they serve chicken binacol. The chef he played around with it and started serving sea bass binacol. Now you can only taste the sea bass binacol here.
Very nice.
And we're the only one actually apparently serves this.
Pond fishing in the Philippines, or pond farming rather, has developed kind of like a bad rep. How is what you do here different? Because here this tastes so clean. So is it because of a technique? Is it because of what it eats?
Yes. The technique actually lies with all the elements that we actually have. You need to consider all the natural species, the environment. So what we actually do is we just complement what Mother Nature has. We compartmentalize it. We control it.
Yeah.
And then we strike a balance.
So I was struggling at this point for space, but it was time to try the fish that started it all.
That sea bass is insane. It's meaty where it needs to be.
Yeah.
It has just a very light, oily sheen to it. It makes sense that this is kind of like the star.
Yeah.
The star
Yeah.
product.
In a world where wild fish populations are drastically disappearing due to overfishing, pollution, and rapid population growth, they want to create food security for future generations through responsible and sustainable aquaculture in a country that sits at the global center of marine biodiversity.
We don't need to import our own fish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's from our shoreline. All we need to do is just to produce it on our own.
Yeah. It comes back to what you said in the beginning. It's appreciating what we have locally and then nurturing it where it can be made available to everyone so people can actually taste. Well, this has been delicious. Thank you very much.
No, thanks.
And I like we end with something made with Criollo cacao.
Criollo cacao. It's hot fudge with burnt sab'a with Criollo hot fudge.
Very nice. I feel like next time I come, I should do the full shebang.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And not working. So that was a great little start to our trip. I am full of seafood, but I made sure not to eat too much because one of my favorite things to do when I'm in Bacolod is to eat piaya. One of the cool things about the Next Gen is this massive screen display that you get. And when you're driving in the Philippines, specifically in the province, you're always gonna have really tight spots. So having that massive display that not only gives you kind of like that 3D map and picture of your car, and it even shows you when people are passing close to your car and everything is extremely helpful. I just realized the steering wheel has kind of like a flat bottom here, which makes navigating way more fun. And we're off!
Don Colmenares is a chef who's been serving up his take on Negrense cuisine since 2018. He came up to me during an event and passionately told me about all the other Negrense dishes that I had yet to try, and I was sold. So I had to give him a call for this episode. But before we go to his place, he told me that one of his family members makes one of the best piayas in town.
This is one of the oldest piaya makers in Negros, and they still do it traditionally. It's actually my personal favorite. So it's not like the usual soft, fluffy. It's thin and crispy. It's still the same exact recipe. It's still the exact same taste since 1948. This is the main kitchen.
Hello.
This is Tito Mark Vargas.
Tito Mark.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. So this is your operation.
We started in 1946, just giving out during the parties, and then later it became commercial in 1968.
I feel like there's an obsession with piaya here. Is it
Yes.
just something that everyone grows up eating when they're young?
It is one of the delicacies that used to be for parties, for
Coffee.
but it was only made and eaten in the house.
So what makes a really good piaya?
Number one is the dough, because their dough, it's very simple, almost like a Mexican tortilla. And the stuffing is purely also muscovado. But the essence of the muscovado is not that they don't make it from the sugar, they make it literally from like almost the molasses. Each family has their own recipe. So this is a different recipe from if you go to another place.
Yeah. Can I grab one
Yeah,
from
sure.
there? Yeah. Really thin and crispy, definitely. I love how crisp and light
Yes.
this is. I feel like you could eat 10 and not
that's
hate your
perfect.
body and not hate yourself.
After. They more or less sell in a day
Thank you.
an easy 300 packs.
Oh my god, it's even better when it's really hot.
See?
Yeah. Some people start getting like creative,
Yeah.
making savory piayas, which for me makes so much sense.
Yes. It's the easiest thing to fixate about, especially if you want to develop it.
It's a canvas.
Yeah, you can mix your imagination, will just run with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We are in a hurry because there's just so much to do, so much to eat, and so much to see. We are going to be seeing Don later. So we're going to go ahead and meet Chin, who's the founder of Lanai, who's doing some amazing stuff with his farm called FreshStart. But that piaya just like opened up my palate. Now I'm ready to kind of chow down and eat some really good food.
I first met Chin when we were shooting a salt documentary in Guimaras. Since then, we've crossed paths multiple times, and I always wondered where he got all his motivation from, because it is endless. He is the counselor for Slow Food International for Southeast Asia, an organization that works towards making sure that everyone has access to good, clean, and fair food, as well as the Arca Taste, which was created to draw attention to products that are disappearing in the world. He is a proud Negrense that wants to show the world what the island of Negros is all about and all the treasures that it has. He still supplies machinery, fertilizer, and has integrated farms, delis, and restaurants in the business.
So, I mean, we spoke briefly a while ago, and you were saying you're a produce-driven
Yeah,
restaurant.
produce-driven, yeah.
So it's not necessarily Filipino food, obviously.
Yes,
but
yes.
with a really strong appreciation
Yeah.
and focus
Yes.
on the produce.
Basically, when we started the restaurant, we started creating the menu based on what's available on the ground in the farms. It's basically the food biodiversity of Negros, so from land to sea, and the farmers that we work with, because we work with around more than 1,000 organic farmers in the islands.
All in Negros.
All in Negros. So we've been trying to make Negros Island an organic island. So we've been doing that since 2005. So our dream is to make it the entire island organic.
In a country where agriculture is probably one of the most complicated systems with there's no right way to do it, a lot of issues, why did you kind of decide to focus on this endeavor?
Yeah, because when you do organic, you utilize waste as your raw material. So we have all the natural resources, we have all the waste, we have all the biodegradable materials. So it's good also to be a tropical country because we all have these resources around us. And chemical fertilizer, actually, it's oil-based. So when prices of oil in the world market goes up, chemical fertilizer also goes up.
Yeah.
So in that kind of agricultural system, that's why for us, it's a big failure. So not only did it destroy the environment, it made people sick, it made our farmers poor, and it did not provide its intention of feeding the world. So our goal is to really change the food system. We believe that we can actually produce our own inputs. So whatever happens outside of the Philippines, we can still have our own food, not relying on the outside. So that's the goal, is to make organic food accessible and affordable to everyone. farmers don't want to farm anymore because the children saw their parents doing all the hard work but still end up being the poorest.
The margins are very low. And,
so they don't want to farm anymore. But organic gives them hope because organic practices fair trade. So when you say fair trade, we partner with different organic farmers in the island. So for example, with the organic rice, before planting, the farmer already knows the price. During the organic festival back in 2006, most of the organic farmers have the same problem. Not just organic farmers, but it was happening all over the world. Farmers do all the hard work, the middleman control the prices. So we said, okay, let's create a company that consolidates all these organic products. So that's why we created another company, FreshStart. The goal is to provide fair prices to all these organic farmers. Soon we had organic rice, organic coffee, organic muscovado, organic vegetables, and then we had all this wide variety of organic produce. People started coming here. So and then we decided to create a full-blown restaurant, highlighting all the produce and making the farmers, the fishermen, the stars of the table. So that's our goal. That's why we created Lanai. This is the cauliflower pockets.
Okay.
So it's made with organic cauliflower from Canlaon. We make the cashew dressing.
Okay.
So it's a vegan dressing.
Ah, nice.
So there's no, it's only cashew and siling labuyo.
You know what I like about this? I like that it... Or maybe I'll chew this first. No, what I was saying is what I really like about all of this is it's food that looks, feels international, but it showcases that
Local,
with
yeah.
local ingredients
Yeah.
you can do so much.
Yes, yes,
So there's this idea that local produce can only be used to make local food, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's very, we have so much potential when it comes to food biodiversity because when we did the biodiversity mapping, we realized that the Philippines is actually one of the richest when it comes to food biodiversity. For this one naman, it's a cheese wheel pasta. So we make the pasta from scratch, made from malunggay. And then we use local cheese, local parmesan, and then we put turtle salt. Yeah. So this tangige comes from the tuna route. So it's from the south of Negros. So you can also dip it in Criollo cacao vinegar.
This is and this one's the crab.
This one is
right?
the blue crab salad. So it's siling labuyo sauce. The blue swimming crabs, it's one of the species that we wanted to take care of because it's disappearing already because there's a lot of crabs that are still young but already being harvested. But here in Negros, there's a legislation that you have to return it. We have a certain standards in FreshStart, so we only work with people that do sustainability.
Because these blue crabs can't be farmed, right?
Can be farmed. It cannot be farmed. Yeah, just like the wild cannot be farmed. It relies on healthy waters. For example, if it's pregnant, you have to return it. So farmers really practice it, and then the government gives incentives.
We ate and we spoke. He toured me around their farm behind the restaurant, and we spoke more about their vision of empowering local farmers and to instill a sense of pride back into their profession and make sure that they're in the best position to break the poverty cycle and fix our general food security issues. What Chin Chin, Slow Food, the Architaste, and everyone involved are doing is extremely important for this region, but also for the country.
Always be aware that when you eat in Negrense people's homes, you will always, or restaurants or businesses, you will always have so much food. I'm absolutely stuffed, so good thing we have an hour ride all the way to Sauma Farms, which is Don's kind of farm stay where you can actually sleep there. We're actually sleeping there tonight, which I'm really excited for. But Don's a really accomplished chef, so he's going to be cooking some dishes for us. Hopefully not too much. We said 1 or 2 dishes would be absolutely perfect. But this is the perfect time to digest, but also talk about this beautiful next-gen Ford Territory that I'm currently driving. From the outside, it doesn't look too massive, but inside it actually feels very luxurious. And there's just so much space to put lots of things, so it makes the ride so comfortable. When you're taking drives like this that are 1 hour, 2 hours also, you've got cruise control. And so it just feels like a very modern vehicle, especially with this massive dashboard that you have in front of you. It's just been a breeze so far to drive. If you are interested, we're going to have an episode 2 of this series where we're going to drive up all the way to Capiz, so Rojas City in Capiz, which is known for their seafood. So we'll be taking these cars on the Roro, then taking a 3-hour drive up north on that side of the island. It should be really exciting.
Sauma is located in the farm that Don grew up in and is the perfect setting to try and understand Negrense food, right next to where most of the produce grows. Don now accepts reservations for private meals and will leave you in awe of the local food culture, the produce, and just the exciting energy that this new wave of Filipino food has behind it. We found Don hard at work preparing darag, a chicken which is native to Panay, Guimaras, and Negros.
So we're doing a Negrense classic. It's called papisik. So this is the native darag chicken of the island of Panay and the island of Negros. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stuff it with onion, and then luya, tanglad, lemongrass, and libas. In Negros, it grows everywhere, like literally everywhere. Kahit you don't go to a forested area. Ito yung hinarvest namin sa bahay lang ni Pa Joel. Libas is a souring agent for a lot of dishes that need heat. Kasi yung pagka-sour niya lalabas when heat is introduced to the ingredient. So now, he rubbed the darag in some salt, and what he's going to do is, ibubuhos siya yung asin sa loob. So, we're going to line the bottom of the caldero with a lot of salt because papisik is cooked in salt. This recipe is one of the most old school recipes that we have in the Negrense culture. It's one of the most native ways of cooking this recipe kasi this is the only way you can cook it. Wala nang iba. This is an heirloom recipe that kami personally, we have every week. So after 2 hours, we check the chicken and along the way, we just rotated it. And then now we see that the meat is coming off the bones. So this is yung ensalada ng puso ng saging. Pero around this side of Negros, what we do is hindi namin niluluto yung banana blossom sa gata. Simple lang, just blanch it with the water and salt. After ice bath, we shred it. We're mostly using is ginger, onion, tomatoes, chili, bell pepper, calamansi or dalandan, whichever you have, and burnt gata. So pag linuto siya sa open flame, you get a smoky taste. This is a bit more of a modern twist na to the ensalada. So most of the times, Negrense cuisine is very straightforward family recipes, but a lot of the recipes are passed down from ancestors to ancestors. The majority of the people here in Negros are workers who work in the fields. So most of the time, the food is very simple. Okay, so what we're going to do now is another very classic Negrense dish. It's called ginataan na langka and munggo. What we're going to do is we're going to pair it with lamperong. The shell is used for decorations mostly. So what they do is they punch it out with a cutter. The moment they punch it out, this is where they're going to use to make whatever design they want. It's simple as like how you would sa normal scallop. So you have the round side, concave side, and you have the flat side. So you take your knife and then you cut the flat side with to remove the abductor. Then you open it. And then so this is the meat of the lamperong. So we can actually utilize the entire thing except this black part. So the lamperong is a replacement for shrimp.
Shrimp, okay.
What we try and do is figure out what we can use locally.
So your idea is not necessarily to kind of completely change the DNA of the dish,
Yes.
but to hyper-localize it where it makes sense. So as Filipinos, we tend to be very kind of like ingredient dish specific.
Yes,
Where
very.
you can only use this ingredient for this type of
Yes.
dish. Yeah.
Not too many people eat it, and then the way that they would eat it is they would just grill it.
Yeah.
So this is another version of a dish that can open their eyes to something different.
Nice.
We would add the chicharron just to give it a bit of texture.
Awesome. Let's sit down.
Yes.
I say it was a long, fruitful day, so we dig right in.
Yes.
Wine, it's an aerator, so instead of decanting,
Yeah.
I'm thirsty, so.
Yeah.
Very nice. You had done a few dinners,
Yes.
I think, but nothing kind of like permanent.
Yeah.
You were kind of still thinking about the idea
Yeah.
and everything like that. What
We-
made you say, let's do it?
We were fixing everything up. The previous menu we did, we just revisited it, presented it in a different way, and that's where it all started.
And the setting here, I mean, for you, it's a very intimate setting because
Yeah.
this is a family farmhouse.
Yes.
And your idea is to have people come have dinner here. Eventually, people can stay here.
Yes.
It's a very Filipino thing to invite people to your
Yes.
house, right? So when people come here, what's kind of the experience you want to give them in terms of the food and the hospitality?
What we essentially want is to give our guests the Hacienda life, the Hacienda experience. I know it sounds so I pretentious, but it's what we want to show in a way that it is more culturally accepted. Because, you know, you have the nation that soplado, you have the nation that they're very pompous and everything, but we want to be very welcoming. With that is also we want to promote Negrense culture, ingredients that we can literally only find on the island. This is really something that we do here in Negros. What we do is literally, it's almost like a kilawin.
Yeah.
So we just blanch the banana blossoms.
Yeah, I like the heat that's in here. I mean, simple things like instead of chunks of red onions, thin slivers of red onions.
Exactly.
Massive difference in terms of flavor.
And texture too.
And texture. One's considered kind of like traditional, like it's okay, you can chunk it up.
Yeah.
What's your take on Negrense food?
The moment that you give a little bit more effort to the dish, it gives a level up to it. We can play around with the food without losing the essence of the food. For this, like the ginata na langka, typically it's shrimp. If shrimp isn't available, use lamperong. You can surprisingly use octopus if you'd like. But the essence is still there.
You have the pork fat you can taste. You have the coconut, obviously.
Yes.
I like that interplay of tamarind, citric acid, and the batuan. It's like different levels of acidity all coming together nicely. 100%. It still feels very Filipino, something you grew up eating. But you don't want to use words like elevate or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's more of just thoughtful.
Yes.
It's really thinking about the dish and saying what makes this Filipino to our palate, and how can I apply my knowledge, my skill set, the ingredients that maybe a lot of people don't have access to, or a lot of ingredients that maybe people don't know that you want to try to reintegrate in the cuisine.
So honestly, with this, use your hands.
Okay, so just go ahead and
you
take off
just
something.
take off a piece.
So this is the famous darag
Papisik.
species, and then this is you're saying homemade.
Yeah,
achara?
this is our homemade achara. Always the must combination when you have papisik. The reason for it is that it is so savory because of the chicken being just the native everyday chicken that works so hard, that it's so flavorful, that the moment you add salt, souring agents, the aromats, and you need something to cut the richness of the natural fat it has. With the papisik, it's because we want to show how rustic it is. So there are days or there are events that we do that we serve people family style like this.
The papisik feels like a very farm dish.
Yes,
it
this is
makes
very
me
homey.
feel like I'm wearing cowboy boots. And I don't know if it's the tightening of the skin, but it kind of reminds me of a duck confit.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like the food that we saw today and kind of like the story that you guys are weaving in shows a lot of pride, but shows a lot of kind of youth and creativity, which I feel the younger generation as they come in, I'm pointing at myself when I'm saying younger, yes, just 37, chill. I feel that that's something that people will appreciate more and more. That was a big day, but what an amazing experience in terms of just experiencing everything here with a different perspective of what I know Bacolod to be. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna wake up at 5 a.m., I think without any glitch or problem. But that's pretty much it. That's the end of day one. It was a big day. I'm extremely full, and I am ready for bed. More?